Ask everyone present to please rise and repeat with me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Today we have with us, in the absence of clergy, would you all please bow your heads for a moment of silence? Reading of the Journal.
The Senate, Monday, June 6th, the Senate met pursuant to adjournment. The Journal of Sunday, June 5th, was read and approved. On motion, Senate adjourned.
Without objection, the Journal stands approved as read. Presentations of petitions, messages from the Assembly. Secretary will read.
On page 14, Senator Golden moved to discharge the Committee on Veterans and Homeland Security Assembly Bill number 9191 to substitute for the identical Senate Bill 6465, third reading calendar 244. On page 18, Senator Amador moved to discharge from the Committee on Transportation Assembly Bill number 9028B and substitute the identical Senate Bill 6372A, third reading calendar 411. On page 30, Senator Hannan moved to discharge from the Committee on Health Assembly Bill number 9188B and substitute the identical Senate Bill 6347B, third reading calendar 784. On page 32, Senator Marchon moved to discharge from the Committee on Finance Assembly Bill number 9509 and substitute the identical Senate Bill 6329, third reading calendar 812. On page 40, Senator Laval moved to discharge from the Committee on Education Assembly Bill 9422 and substitute the identical Senate Bill 6851, third reading calendar 1039. On page 41, Senator DeFrancisco moved to discharge from the Committee on Education Assembly Bill number 9516 and substitute the identical Senate Bill 6930, third reading calendar 1040. On page 43, Senator Laval moved to discharge from the Committee on Environmental Conservation Assembly Bill number 9218 and substitute the identical Senate Bill 6678, third reading calendar 1063. On page 49, Senator Golden moved to discharge from the Committee on Health Assembly Bill number 356 and substitute the identical Senate Bill 6730, third reading calendar 1146. On page 64, Senator Golden moved to discharge from the Committee on Higher Education Assembly Bill number 9129A and substitute the identical Senate Bill 6552A, third reading calendar 1322. On page 66, Senator O'Mara moved to discharge from the Committee on Environmental Conservation Assembly Bill number 9643 and substituted for the identical Senate Bill 7177, third reading calendar 1334. On page 71, Senator Montgomery moved to discharge from the Committee on Crime Victims Assembly Bill number 1984 and substitute the identical Senate Bill 6806, third reading calendar 1455.
Substitutions are so ordered. Messages from the Governor, reports of standing committees, reports of select committees, communications and reports from state officers, motions and resolutions. Senator DeFrancisco.
Yes, on page 16, I offer the following amendments to Calendar 333, Senate Print Number 6739A by Senator Boyle, and ask that the bill retain its place on the third reading calendar.
So ordered.
I would like to call up Senator Nozzolio's bill number 1584, recall from the Assembly, which is now at the desk.
Secretary will read the title of the bill.
Calendar number 205 by Senator Nozzolio, Senate Print 1584, an act to amend the Vehicle and Traffic Law.
I now move to reconsider the vote by which the bill was passed.
Please call the roll on reconsideration.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young, ayes 45.
I now offer the following amendments.
The bill is restored to its place on the third reading calendar. Amendments are received, and the bill retains its place on the third reading calendar.
I would now like to call up Senate Print 1954 by Senator Nozzolio, recall from the Assembly, which is now at the desk.
Secretary will read the title only.
Calendar number 273 by Senator Nozzolio, Senate Print 1954, an act to amend the Vehicle and Traffic Law.
I now move to reconsider the vote by which the bill was passed.
Call the roll on reconsideration.
Addabbo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young, ayes 45.
The bill is restored to its place on the third reading calendar.
I now offer the following amendments.
Amendments are received, and the bill retains its place in the third reading calendar.
Next, I wish to call up Senator Gallivan's bill, Senate Print Number 6669, recalled from the Assembly, which is now at the desk.
Secretary will read the title of the bill.
Calendar number 656 by Senator Gallivan, Senate Print 6669, enacting amended vehicle and traffic law.
I now move to reconsider the vote by which the bill was passed.
Call the roll on reconsideration.
Adabo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young, ayes 45.
I now offer, oops, go ahead.
The bill is restored to its place in the third reading calendar.
I now offer the following amendments.
Amendments are received, and its bill retains its place in the third reading calendar.
All right, next I have amendments to the following third reading calendar bills. Senator Golden, page 23, calendar 607, Senate Print 6704A. My bill, page 50, calendar number 838, Senate Print 7500. Senator Bodasik's bill, page 44, calendar 1074, Senate Print 6485. Senator Serino's bill, page 61, calendar number 1288, Senate Print 7777. Should play those numbers today. Senator Griffo's bill, page 64, calendar 1315, Senate Print 7455. Senator Marcelino's bill, page 18, calendar 403, Senate Print number 6873. Senator Murphy's bill, page 39, calendar 999, Senate Print number 5774. Senator Akshar's bill, page 43, calendar 1064, Senate Print 6664. Senator Ort's bill, page 23, calendar 648, Senate Print 3123. And lastly, Senator Seward's bill, page 22, calendar 620, Senate Print 5250. And I now move that these bills retain their place on the order of third reading.
So ordered. The amendments are received, and the bill shall retain its place in the third reading calendar.
Would you please recognize Senator Valesky?
Senator Valesky, can we have some order in the House, please? Senator Valesky.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of Senator Savino, on page 24, I offer the following amendments to calendar 662, Senate Bill 7149, and ask that said bill retain its place on the third reading calendar.
The amendments are received, and the bill shall retain its place on the third reading calendar.
And on behalf of Senator Carlucci, I wish to call up his bill 1227A, recalled from the Assembly, which is now at the desk.
The Secretary will read the title of the bill.
Calendar number 574 by Senator Carlucci, Senate Print 1227A, enacting amended the alcoholic beverage control law.
Mr. President, I now move to reconsider the vote by which this bill was passed.
Please call roll on reconsideration.
Adabo, Flanagan, Klein, Stewart, Cousins, Young, ayes 45.
The bill is restored to its place in the third reading calendar.
I now offer the following amendments.
And the amendments are received, and the bill shall retain its place in the third reading calendar. Senator DeFrancisco.
Now, would you please recognize Senator Akshar for an introduction of a very special guest today at the Chambers.
Senator Akshar.
Mr. President, thank you very much. Mr. Floor Leader, thank you very much for your indulgence. You know, folks, every once in a while we get to travel our district and meet great people. But today I'm going to introduce to you a very special person, somebody I consider my #1 constituent in my district. Her name is Madeline Shaw. She's also here with her mother and father, Kevin and Amy. They're seated in the back. Her grandparents, Donna and Bill, her grandmother, Dee Shaw, and Maddie's aunt, Ashley Cook. By way of background, if you'll indulge me, Maddie in 2013, in December, was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma. It's a very rare form of cancer, about 200 cases in the United States each year. A little bit about the background, if I may. She started 12 rounds of chemotherapy at Golisano Children's Hospital in Syracuse. June of 2014, she had to travel to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, where she had a major surgery in which they removed the left side of her pelvis and her hip. She continues to do well from that. She spends a month in the hospital. In August of 2014, she got a rare blood infection that put her back in the hospital in Syracuse for 2 weeks. August of 14, she goes back to CHOP and has more surgery on her lungs where the cancer had spread. Maddie, in 2014, September, completes her last round of chemotherapy, has some radiation. August of 2015, a year later, the cancer returns to her lungs. She has had a total of 22 rounds of chemotherapy. She's 11 years old. She's just finishing up the 6th grade. She never complains. Never. It's amazing. She's a fighter. She is inspirational. She is a hard worker. Some say this past week that Ali is a champ. I would respectfully argue that Madeline Shaw is the champ, the true champ. Madeline, please stand up and come forward for me, please. Take over now. May 20th, Maddie finished her last chemotherapy treatment. She's responding very well, and her family is incredibly strong as well. Mom's run a couple of half marathons during this. Dad competed in the Ironman. They lost their house to a fire. Maddie has a beautiful sister, Alexis, who couldn't be with us here today. She's just truly inspiring, and I wanted everybody in this house to get a chance to meet her. Visit her Facebook page, Team Maddie, and her favorite thing is M&Ms. So Maddie, once again, honey, here you go, babe. Mr. Floor Leader, thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you for bringing Maddie here, and it's truly an inspiring story. What a wonderful story. Mr. President, can we now adopt the resolution calendar with the exception of Resolutions 6089, 6139, and 6163?
All in favor of adopting the resolution calendar with the exception of Resolution 6089 and Resolution 6139 and 6163 signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution calendar is adopted. Senator?
Now can we take up privileged resolution by Senators Flanagan, Klein, and Stewart Cousins, and please read it in its entirety.
Secretary will read.
Legislative resolution by Senators Flanagan, Klein, and Stewart Cousins, mourning the death of Muhammad Ali, three-time world heavyweight boxing champion, role model, and humanitarian. Whereas, it is the sense of this legislative body to acknowledge outstanding athletes who distinguish themselves through their exceptional performance, attaining unprecedented success in the highest level of personal achievement. And whereas, it is with great sorrow and deep regret that this legislative body records the passing of Muhammad Ali, noting the significance of his purposeful life and accomplishments. And whereas, widely regarded as one of the most significant and celebrated sporting figures of the 20th century, Muhammad Ali died on Friday, June 3, 2016, in Scottsdale, Arizona, at the age of 74. And whereas, born Cassius Marcellus Clay, Jr. on January 17, 1942 in Louisville, Kentucky, to Cassius Marcellus Clay, Sr. and Odessa O'Grady Clay, Muhammad Ali became interested in boxing at a young age when his bicycle was stolen. Louisville police officer and boxing coach Joe E. Martin suggested to the irate 12-year-old that he should learn to box to ensure it would never happen again. And whereas Cassius Clay Jr. made his amateur boxing debut in 1954, he would go on to win 6 Kentucky Gold Glove titles, 2 National Golden Glove titles, an amateur athletic union national title, and the light heavyweight gold medal in the 1960 Summer Olympics in Rome, Italy. His amateur record was 100 wins and 5 losses. And whereas Cassius Clay Jr. made his professional debut on October 29, 1960, under the direction of trainer and mentor Angelo Dundee, who would remain with him through his 22-year career before retiring in 1981. And whereas in his first professional match, Cassius Clay Jr. won a 6-round decision over Tony Hunsaker. From then until the end of 1963, he amassed a record of 19-0 with 15 wins by knockout. And whereas Cassius Clay Jr. defeated numerous boxers, including Tony Asperti, Jim Robinson, Donnie Fleeman, Alonzo Johnson, George Logan, Willie Besmanoff, Lamar Clark, Doug Jones, and Henry Cooper. In addition, he defeated his former trainer and veteran boxer Archie Moore in a 1962 match. And whereas by late 1963, Cassius Clay Jr. became a top contender for Sonny Liston's heavyweight title. After 6th round, he was declared the winner by TKO when Liston failed to answer the bell. And whereas at 22 years old, Cassius Clay Jr. declared himself the greatest, proving his pre-match prediction to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. And whereas shortly after capturing the title, Cassius Clay Jr. became a member of the Nation of Islam, and the sect leader Elijah Muhammad personally renamed him Muhammad Ali. And whereas after nearly 4 years sabbatical, 30-year-old Muhammad Ali returned to boxing in October of 1970. On March 8, 1971, he squared off with the current heavyweight champion Joe Frazier at Madison Square Garden in what was billed as the fight of the century. The match was broadcasted to 35 foreign countries. And whereas Muhammad Ali began training at a farm near Reading, Pennsylvania in 1971, and finding the country setting to his liking, sought to develop a real training camp in the countryside. And whereas he found a 5-acre site on a Pennsylvania country road in the village of Deer Lake, Pennsylvania. On this site, he carved out what was to become his training camp, the camp where he lived and trained for all the many fights he had from 1972 to the end of his career in the 1980s. And whereas the defeat of Joe Frazier set the stage for a title fight against heavyweight champion George Foreman in Kinshasa, Zaire on October 30th, 1974. During this bout, nicknamed the Rumble in the Jungle, Muhammad Ali knocked him out in the 8th round and regained the heavyweight title. And whereas he then faced Joe Frazier for the 3rd and final time in the Thrilla in Manila, a bout held in the Philippines in 1975. In the 15th round, Muhammad Ali won by TKO. And whereas due to his successful boxing career, Muhammad Ali became an international celebrity. He starred in the 1977 film adaptation of his autobiography, The Greatest, which soared him to superstar status. And whereas in 1984, Muhammad Ali was diagnosed with Parkinson's syndrome, but would later be identified as Parkinson's disease. Despite his illness, he remained active with several public appearances, such as the 1987 Tournament of Roses Parade, lit the flame at the 1996 Summer Olympics in Atlanta. It was on the set of the 2001 film entitled Ali, starring Will Smith. And whereas remembered by countless fans, friends, and family members, Muhammad Ali is survived by his 4th wife, Yolanda Williams, 9 children, and her brother, Rahman Ali. And whereas a gifted athlete, Muhammad Ali was a renowned legend in the sport's professional boxing, after more than 2 decades, his character and achievements stand as a sterling example and inspiration to all who would aspire to succeed. He will be deeply missed and truly merits the grateful tribute of this legislative body. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this legislative body pause its deliberations to mourn the death of Muhammad Ali, 3-time world heavyweight boxing champion, role model, and humanitarian, and to express his deepest condolences to his family, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution, suitably engrossed, be transmitted to the family of Muhammad Ali.
Senator Flanagan.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, we obviously have great traditions in this House, and this legislative resolution, I think, underscores some of the work that we do here. I'm actually really humbled just to be able to get up and say a few words, and I don't think I'm any different from anybody else in this room. At the ripe young age of 55, I can say that I distinctly remember the career of Muhammad Ali, and like any other kid, you know, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Watching the videos of him, his footwork alone, I mean, it was like, remember Fred Flintstone with the car with the feet? Yeah, Muhammad Ali was a heck of a lot faster than Fred Flintstone. But, you know, his life, I just said to Senator DeFrancisco, if you look back, it's almost hard for me to fathom that he ever lost a professional fight. You know, the guy became so much larger than life itself that it seems like he was always undefeated. And, you know, being dubbed and termed the greatest, he really lived up to that. And I guess what I would want to do is, he obviously turned out to be a fantastic role model, particularly in the latter part of his life. And he was a person who could envelop a room. He took everything right in as soon as he was there. Thinking back to the Summer Olympics when he carried the torch, certainly in my own life, I don't remember historically anyone else carrying the torch, but he was larger than life. And while we are all proud New Yorkers, we can certainly celebrate the achievements of someone
known as the greatest for many reasons. Certainly our condolences go out to the Ali family, and may we all learn continued great lessons from the greatest, Muhammad Ali. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Stewart Cousins.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I really want to follow what Senator Flanagan said. I'm glad that we are offering this resolution. My story of Ali is a personal story because my brother worked for him for many years. My brother, when he returned from Vietnam, went to work and eventually became a transit cop. And he had the opportunity to go to an Ali fight. And he took his whole paycheck to get a ringside seat so that he could see the champ. And you can imagine everyone saying to him, "What are you doing? You're taking your whole paycheck to go to a fight." He was so enamored by Ali, this young, brash black man who stood up for himself, who was all of the things that we know him to be, but had such an air of pride, self-confidence, grace, articulate, poetic, and just the embodiment of what anyone would want to be. And this young black police officer was inspired and he got a T-shirt that said "The Champ," and he brought this T-shirt ringside. And sure enough, one of Ali's security people saw my brother and said, "Do you want to bring that to the champ?" And he said, "I would love to." And he had an opportunity to go back into the dressing room and present his T-shirt to the champ. The champ invited him to go to training camp, and before you know it, my brother was doing security for Muhammad Ali. This police officer who we laughed at about spending his paycheck to pursue his dream to be in the presence of his idol taught me a lesson back then, taught every kid a lesson back then. It says, you know what? Your dreams, no matter how outlandish to others, can come true if you pursue it with clarity and, in his case, a pure heart. He never forgot his time with Ali. We never forgot it. But the reality is that even as Ali aged and fought the battles that he fought with Parkinson's, he did it with the same amount of humor, the same amount of grace, the same amount of making sure that he lived bigger than life, even as he battled this disease. So I, too, offer condolences to the Ali family, but also offer the great remembrances of a great man, and I hope that each and every one of us will follow our dreams, not have any fear, have the courage, and really learn from his example and be bigger than life. Thank you.
Senator Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Senator Flanagan and others for coming forward with this one. I think I'll start with Ali saying itself. He said it's better to suffer one day in the gym and live the rest of your life as a champion. And that's something that we all should take to heart. The master of the sweet science itself, a savior of boxing. You have to put things in context. Boxing was really fading out at the time when this young man jumped up and declared himself the greatest, a point where he said it's so young that after a while he started believing it. But the context is the most important if one wants to try to understand Muhammad Ali. Ali came about in a time when it was a bad time to be black in America. Very, very bad time to be black in America. We had to scratch when nothing was itching us. We had to laugh when there was nothing funny. And in spite of those things, where silence and everything we were taught, be silent, stay in your place, know your role, say nothing, Ali broke on the scene and said, no, I'm going to speak out. I'm going to live an incredibly large life. But Ali did more than that. Ali transcended himself. where he outgrew where he was and became something far larger. He became a citizen of the world, a person who, one example, in 1981, he was down in Philadelphia, I believe, doing something, and he heard about a guy who was across the street about to jump out of a building and kill himself. Ali immediately grabs his entourage and they go running across the street, and he was able to talk the man down from killing himself. Most people would have, maybe they would have sent some prayers to the guy, but Ali took it personal. He transcended boxing so much that the question becomes, is he a boxer known for his work outside of the ring, or outside of the ring is he also known as a boxer, where he became an ambassador of peace. He became an ambassador for goodwill, and Lord knows we could use him as an ambassador of religion right around now. The world seems to be inflamed. We really need to have some voices that would get up there and say we need bridges, not walls, for ourselves. But he never lost a common touch. Ali remembers that he went to his one of his idols, Archie Moore, and asked him for an autograph, and Archie said, "No, I don't have time for that." Muhammad Ali said from that point on that he would never forget, and he always stopped and took time for little people and gave them his autograph. He also said that he wished that people would love each other the way they love him. He wished that somehow he could share that love that everybody was gushing towards him and share it with everyone else. So if we were to remember my idol, I'm not an idol, I don't have those, but my hero, a personal hero of mine that I learned from his brash days to his incredible talent. If we were to learn from him, we would say that we, in his honor, would attack the diseases, Parkinson's, and others with the intensity that he attacked folk in the ring. That we would attack all of the things that divide people with the intensity that he tried to unite people with. That if we could stay humble to ourselves with others and at the same time be a terror on anything that threatens democracy and justice, then we would do Muhammad Ali a great service. And if we wanted to do anything to honor him, why don't we in New York State say that we're going to do something about Parkinson's, that we're going to do something about any of these dreaded illnesses, and in his honor, we're going to knock out Parkinson's or any of these others. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Espaillat.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also stand to speak on this resolution. Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay Muhammad Ali. He was one of those folks, one of those gifted individuals that I think could be described as a universal man, Da Vinci's universal man, someone that could do just about anything. He probably would have been great at anything he chose. He was, of course, a great boxer, a great athlete. He revolutionized boxing because he was the first heavyweight to be able to move the way he did with the speed and the precision that he did. And in that sense, he revolutionized the sport. But he was also an activist, a social activist, someone who opposed the war in Vietnam, and maybe was very much disliked in America at that time, but catapulted from being probably one of the most disliked person in America to being the most revered, the most loved person in America, as we saw him light the torch for the Olympic Games in Atlanta. He was a religious man, a Muslim. For many Americans at that time, they didn't even understand what that faith was. He was a pioneer in allowing us to understand what that faith is. And of course, he was a poet. A poet. Maybe should have been a Pulitzer Prize winning poet. And I'm sure all of us, know some of his poetry, whether you say I float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. My favorite one is the one that he said after when he was going to face Joe Frazier, and he said, after Frazier doesn't answer the bell, I will get out the ring and take on Howard Cosell. And so he was a poet, right? And a fighter, and a social activist, and a religious man, and then became synonymous with peace and fought the disease. I got to meet him once, and he was already fighting his illness, and my daughter, who's now 27, was a small child, and he lifted her, and I saw him trembling, and I felt so bad for him because he was such a monument of a man. He's like Paul Robeson, you know, who was a Rhodes Scholar and an athlete and a classical singer. He could just do anything he wanted to do. That was the great Muhammad Ali. In closing, Mr. President, Muhammad, may you forever float like a butterfly and sting like a bee.
Senator Hamilton.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I rise for the resolution for Muhammad Ali. I just spoke with his brother yesterday, Rahman Ali, to give my condolences to the family and to let him know we'll be sending him a copy of the resolution that will be today, sending it to his home in Chicago.